Hello, everyone. A very happy Tuesday morning to all of you. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday morning. It's not the regular slot of Sunday. It's 10 o'clock here. Well, we started early actually. It's 4 minutes to 10. But anyways, yeah. It's 10 in the morning in the UK. It's 5 p.m. in Manila. I hope our friends in Manila are watching, and also it's 7 p.m. in Sydney. I know that I've got a friend in Sydney who said that I always start Ask the Drummer very, very late so you can watch it live. But now it's not too late, 7 p.m. So hopefully you're watching today. Today's guest is actually, I'm really, really excited about it. I couldn't believe that she said yes to Ask the Drummer. She's an Australian legend, and also she's Tracy Thorn's rock and roll friend, and I really wanted to bring her uh, in right now on the studio. So, my dear friends, please welcome Lindy Morrison. But I get really excited. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying.
I forgot this. I forgot this was live, Anne.
Well,
I forgot that.
yeah, well, because I always sort of like do it live, so that because I'm not very good with technical questions about like technical drumming questions, so sometimes I ask help from other friends, like viewers, and then they can ask about the technical drumming side of it if they wanted to. But anyways, good morning, Lindy. So you're in London at the moment.
I am. I'm in London. I flew into Newcastle on time to record with the girl with the replaceable head, and that was really fun. There were nine absolutely fantastic songs. Actually, about five of them were in 6/8, which is unusual. And
Oh,
so yeah, isn't it to have a majority like that? But that was
yeah.
and they were interesting. A couple of the 6/8s had a triplet in them, in the beats, in the eighth note. So it was that was kind of fun. And then I came down here, and
Yeah,
I have a lot of friends in London.
in London.
I'm staying at a friend's house, and I have now been looking forward to playing with Rob Lloyd and Janet Bean. And
Yeah,
so Rob Lloyd's from the Nightingales, and Janet Bean from Freakwater in Chicago have
yeah.
done a really beautiful album together called um, Black Cat, Dark Horse, which is also a really great song. And
Yeah,
we're
and
we're
that's
we're doing a gig next Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm going to see you next
Oh
Tuesday.
yeah,
So I'm
great.
going down.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm going down to London. 'Cause I'm really excited about that. But I'm going to ask you about it later in the show. But what's the weather like there? Because this time of year in Australia, is it sunny? Or, well, it's always sunny in Australia, isn't it?
well, I think the weather in Australia and the weather here is pretty much the same at the moment. It's Today is absolutely beautiful, and it's. I've got a T-shirt on, which is pretty incredible, and the sky is blue, and so this is spring, and in Australia it's autumn, and it's exactly the same
The
temperature.
same. Oh,
Yes,
right.
and the sky would be blue, and just a slight chill. That's it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah,
So I've noticed on Wikipedia, your Wikipedia entry actually says that you've got a three-letter thing after your name. It's OAM. That's the first time I've actually seen it, and I looked it up, and it's Order of Australia medal.
yeah.
So do you actually sort of like use that, like Belinda Morrison OAM?
No, I don't use it because I think it might be pretentious to use it. But that's not saying that I'm not proud to have received one. I am proud to have received an Order of Australia medal because of the work I did in not only as a musician but in different areas of the music industry, such as helping to establish and working with the first and only music industry charity called Support Act. But also, I took a great interest in copyright and
Yeah, yeah.
sat on a number of boards, but in particular the Collection Society for the sound recording fees. So you know how songwriters get paid for when their songs are played on radio and television and in clubs and
Yeah.
pubs.
Yeah.
Well, the owners of sound recordings also get paid. And in the Northern Hemisphere, the musicians who played on that recording also get paid uh, um, for the distributions coming from clubs and pubs and TV and radio. In Australia, we have a different system, which isn't as generous. And I was trying to, in many ways, have that system put into Australia, but I failed. And but it's too complicated to really talk about.
Yeah,
It.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna sort of like do our proper sort of like introduction now to Ask the Drummer. So I want to welcome you to Ask the Drummer. Episode 78 is all about you, Lindy Morrison, OAM. so, so according to your Wikipedia entry, you were born in Sydney, but you grew up in uh,
Brisbane.
yeah,
Yeah.
Queensland. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, can you tell us what was it like growing up in Queensland?
Well, when I was young, it was idyllic, really, because uh, we lived on a river and the beautiful Brisbane River, and I spent a great deal of time on the rocks on the river, up and down. I was very free to do whatever I wanted, and I also had a dinghy, and I used to take the dinghy out all the time in the river. So I'm very boating friendly. Although
Yeah.
I never get to boat now because boating is really belongs to the very wealthy. But I mean, but I did have a dinghy, and I spent a lot of time on the rocks, and I remember it all very fondly. I suppose when I got older and became politically active, Queensland was ruled by a very authoritarian government and a very, very conservative government. And um, the demonstrations started with demonstrating against the Vietnam War and then for rights for Indigenous people because of the situations that they were set up in all throughout Australia and the incredible racism that existed, absolutely extraordinary racism, and civil rights, the right to choose, homosexuality was banned. I mean, it really was the most primitive um, state
Oh,
and very, very just so conservative. So
yeah.
eventually, the right to march was banned, and I think that's why Brisbane had such a very dynamic punk movement because the counterculture was huge to try to express itself against an authoritarian police state.
Oh, I didn't know that because you think of Australia, it's sort of like I don't know because I've never been there, but I always have this impression that it's sort of like people are just beautiful and they go surfing all the time and it's sort of like that. It's
Well,
such
well,
a
well
fun
this was
place
this
to
was
visit.
this was during the 70s. It was a real fight for Indigenous people to be recognised. In Queensland in particular, they were incarcerated on community areas, and they had to ask permission to marry. They had to ask permission to leave. They weren't didn't look after their own money, and these were the sorts of early battles for black rights that occurred in Queensland. So that it was the 70s. You know,
Yeah,
Brisbane really was a small country town when I was growing up there, and I mean it's changed considerably. But
yeah.
for me, I have those sort of memories.
But what about music though? What was it like? Were there lots of uh, clubs or venues that you could go to
So
at the time?
we're talking from about 1976 to 1980, aren't we? That's yeah. So, um,
Yeah.
well, we did a lot of we put a lot of our own gigs on in halls. There's a famous hall in Brisbane called Baruna Hall, and we would have Super 8 films in the background, and we'd have like there were lots of graphic artists doing posters and postcards, and then there were the bands. But almost every gig, and then we opened up gigs in Fortitude Valley by playing clubs that had never really had. They'd been strip clubs or kind of maybe gambling clubs, those sort of things. We started opening up those because people wouldn't go down to the valley, but we figured we had to get gigs somewhere. But the police managed to close most. If we did a gig at Maruna Hall or in West End, the gigs would be closed down by the cops. They were always waiting outside at the end because the Right to March was banned, and they saw punk, which it was, as a movement to stand up against an authoritarian government, and and so um,
The-
yeah, so there were really wild punk bands, like
yeah,
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 really thrashing bands, you know,
yeah.
singing
It's
songs,
very
singing songs like Peak City and you know, yeah. See,
yeah,
remember the Saints came from Brisbane. They were 1976, 77. They
yeah,
came to Brisbane, and although they weren't really a punk band, they were more a rock band um, with just extraordinary songs.
yeah.
They wrote a song called Brisbane Security City, and of course Stranded. That's about that. But they left early. They left by 77, 78, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
the young punk bands started, and I was in a punk band called Zero, which was predominantly women, and so we were all. I was part of that whole movement.
yeah. Well, I remember Marty Wilson Piper when I saw him in Glasgow recently. He mentioned the Saints, and he said that because he was in the church as well, he said that we should find out about the Saints because it's like a very important band. So, yeah. So Zero, was that your first band?
That was my first electric band. I was in an acoustic women's band called Shrew. Before that, uh, playing mostly in lounge rooms, but we were doing covers of kind of 40 jazz songs, and it was very badly played traditional jazz, um, pre pre bebop.
Oh, okay. Have you always played the drums, or were you playing any other instrument?
I've never played other instruments, but I've learned my way around piano now, um, and I could pick up a bass guitar and play
Yeah.
parts of that because I spent years working in community music where I was directing shows.
Oh,
So I
okay.
had to really get to help with the songwriting and often to find the correct keys or the chord progressions. I chose the piano to do that. So I've really learned my way around the piano, mostly by ear. You know,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, well, once you understand how um, a key works and how scales work, you can do
yeah.
it by ear. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we continue, I just wanted to say that Aiden the Rock said it's great sound and picture. Aiden is actually my tech support, so it's nice to know that it's everything's fine. And also, hello to Guy Keegan. Guy Keegan is the drummer of the Railway Children. I'm really glad that he said hi to us here. But so what got you into drumming?
Oh, I was after I left home. I was living in a house with a very large share house with in Toowong in Brisbane, with a bunch of actors. Jeffrey Rush was one of those, and Billy Brown, who is now deceased, and there's a guy who works in a company here called Coco Loco, called Trevor Stewart. He's in a London theatre company. Plus some musicians, in particular a drummer called Lindsay Arnold, who now lives in Hobart in Tasmania, who was an old crazy jazz drummer even then, but he's even an older crazy jazz drummer now.
Oh,
And, and, and so there was a music room, and I just started playing drums that way.
and did you just teach yourself how to play it, or did you go have
Well,
drumming lessons?
in Brisbane, was a famous drumming teaching family called the Leblers, and I went to their school down in Mary Street in Brisbane. And first of all, I was taught by Harry Lebler, the father, and then later on by the son. But I would probably say that most of the drumming I've learned has been at that period was from reading a lot of books and following books. But I have to say that the person who's probably had the most influence over me over the last years has been Tommy Ego, IDOE. Do you know his work?
No.
Okay, so Tommy Ego does. If you look him up online, so it's just looking at him online. If you see him online, he has this thing called Great Hands for a Lifetime, and he takes you through all the rudiments, and he has a rudiment chart. And the rudiment chart, the great thing about the rudiment chart is it shows you what the counting is. And I always had trouble with rudiments because I never quite understood how the counting worked. What was 5 for? What was, which rudiment did you count, in 3/4 or 5/4 or 4/4? And he goes through all the rudiments, and you can play with him. Online. You can buy. I bought his course, and it really is like it's just fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I also learned when I was living in London in the 80s. So the go-betweens lived in London in the 80s. I learned from a guy called Gary Chester. He's in New York, and he used to play for Dionne Warwick. He played on all her stuff, and he was the most remarkable man. Um, and but I was in London, and he was in New York, and I had to send him cassettes. And the real reason for me to to learn with him, he has a way of teaching, but he wasn't really teaching me that. I went to him because I couldn't play to a click track. And,
okay, yeah, yeah.
and so of course, I was totally untutored in that. And in the mid 80s, the producers were beginning to insist that we play to click tracks. And in the first recordings, I was unable to. Well, I could, but it was. I'll tell you what happened in one studio. We were recording a single right here, and the producer was Craig Leon, and he had me play to a click track, and then he called everybody into the room, the band, and he had like 6 channels of me playing to a click track to the guys playing their parts with an acoustic guitar, and then he had 6 tracks of a drum machine, and then he played the song through, and he lifted the 6 tracks of me, then he lifted the 6 tracks of the drum machine, then he lifted the 6 tracks of me, then he lifted the 6 tracks of the drum machine, and he turned to the men and he said, "Which way do you want to make a hit record?" So I lost that battle, and I was determined not to have that happen again, although it did happen again on other occasions. But generally, when a producer was deciding on a single, they'd want to use a machine, and you'd play the top parts, the cymbals. But I was determined that, once I was free of the go-betweens, that I was just going to get totally on top of the click, and I have done. And I play with the click live on many occasions. I actually like it, but not always. But in certain situations, I really like to do it, particularly if you have a singer who's worked on their own for a while and they just move all over the place. And also, I really like it with a slow song. It really keeps you in time with a slow song. But I've had situations where I've used the click track and on live, and, and,
Yeah, yeah.
and in a rehearsal. So in this particular day, I had at least four guitars. Well, there were four guitars, and we were playing a song, and I could hear, they were speeding up. I was trying so hard to pull them back, and I just stopped, and someone turned around and said to me, "Lindy, you're speeding up." Like,
Oh, God.
yeah, right.
That's very
So,
interesting. That I mean, right here, that's like in the Philippines. That's actually your most famous, the go-between song. Because I did like a survey with one of the new wave groups in based in Manila in the Philippines, and I just wanted to say thank you to Alex Laredo and the members of New Wave Solid, because when they did the survey, Right Here was the number one, the go between song, and then the second one is Streets of Your Town as well,
oh,
Streets of Your Town, and then the third is Head Full of Steam. So
all right.
those,
Wow. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's
But
that.
the others are actually, I mean, the others said that Bachelor Kisses, Love Goes On, I Just Get Cut Out, Bye Bye Pride. And there's one that actually, so like, not, he mentioned not a single, but an album track of Tallulah, Hope Then Strive. Apparently that's his
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
song, like the Go Betweens
Yes. Yeah.
song. But yeah, so Tracy Thorn, I think she said something that when you're hitting the drums, it's not very ladylike. so, so and she said something like, you're in charge, not the singer nor the guitarist, but you've also got, when you play the drum, you've got your legs wide open. It's like, but isn't that sort of like the way the drummers do it? That all drummers have their sort of like legs wide open so they can,
I think
they
she.
can.
I think her point was the fact that I would always wear a dress. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. So I deliberately chose to always wear a dress because of that very contradiction. And I still do wear dresses actually, or skirts.
yeah.
You have to choose them carefully. I've got a great skirt to wear to the show on
On Tuesday.
on Tuesday night. I bought it in the second-hand store, but it's really beautiful. It's a pleated black skirt, and it's going to look fabulous. Not that anyone really sees it, but I do like to wear a dress.
When you're
To,
playing, yeah.
yeah. So I think she was referring to that it wasn't ladylike to have your legs stretched apart when you're wearing a dress, because traditionally women, as you know, will cross their legs and um, you know, and look
Yeah, yeah.
and look more demure.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I'm really looking forward to sort of like seeing you play the drums in the dress or in the skirt. So, um, you mentioned Zero before, because Zero, when you were sort of like in that band, it was spelled with a Z, but then when you left, they changed it to an X, so it became Zero. But is that where you met Robert Forster when you were in Zero?
I was in Zero when I met Robert Forster. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yes, yes, I was in Zero. The Go Betweens were playing around, and they had they'd had a couple of drummers, different drummers, well, maybe three or four actually, but they never stayed for very long.
Yeah.
And I would go and see them. I really did love the naivety of their music, and I because I was such a naive player as well, and such a simple player. So the way our musical experience was identical, and it made it you know I understood what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
would go and see them, and then I eventually met them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then we rehearsed in this really huge old warehouse called the Patterson Building in the Valley, and I was inviting Robert to come and jam with me, and we used to jam together a lot, and I think we became friends through that jamming together. Oh,
yeah.
we would often play for hours. He would just be playing chords over, and I'd just be going over backbeats, just playing simple backbeats and putting in fills. Actually, it's a good way to build up speed, really. I mean, it's hard to be a fast drummer unless you're playing fast music all the time, because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
really
yeah.
become a fast drummer by being on the road a lot.
Oh, well, apparently you were the go-between's eighth drummer.
All right. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Where'd you get that little gem from? That's where'd you get that gem from?
It's from Tracy Thorn's book. You were the
Oh,
eighth drummer, but but really you were the first one because you were the one that stayed with them the longest. I was just sort of like wondering what was it about the two of them, like with Grant McLennan and Robert Forster, that they couldn't find or they couldn't have a drummer that would stay with them until they had you, until they met you. Was it, was
well,
it difficult to work with them as well?
when I think about I can think of four at least. One was a big a rock drummer who played in rock bands, so he would have never stayed. That was
Oh,
Bruce Anton. Um, one was a young woman who she didn't like them much. Another was a writer called Jared Lee, and he was just messing around. And another was the longest, Tim Mustafa, and he played in clubs, sort of cabaret. He wouldn't have liked to be playing, not making money, I guess.
all right. Yeah, yeah. So
So,
you were the one. Yeah.
but my a lot of, I mean, I loved their music and I loved their songs. But one of the things I really liked about them, frankly, was I liked their ambition. They were going to get out of Brisbane. That was the whole point for them. They were very ambitious. They wanted a label. They wanted to get out of Brisbane, and so did I. And so
Oh,
it was it was not only a love of their music. That probably wouldn't have been enough to motivate me to join. It was a love of the fact that they were moving on, and I'd already been to London in 1975, 76 and 77, or 75 and 76, and I I'd gone back to Brisbane, which was, a strange thing to have done, I think, but I went back there, and it was a good thing to have done in the end because that's how I got into music, and I mean seriously into music. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was in theatre for a couple of years before that, in like 77, 78. But uh, yeah, so I knew there was a bigger world out there, and I wanted to go into that world. I did not want to stay in Brisbane.
Oh, so it's almost like us Filipinos. We always wanted to like go somewhere. We
Yeah,
didn't want to just stay in the Philippines. We wanted to, like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
there's a bit of world
Very,
out there. Yeah.
very
Yeah, I
true.
could. Yeah, I
We
could
were looking
relate to
for,
that one. But
yeah.
yeah. So it's really the go-betweens, like the three of you, yourself, Grant McLennan, and Robert Forster. And there's also in Tracy Thorn's book, you were like two wimps and the witch. It was like, and I thought that's a very so like, was that really what they called you at the time, or they just
Well,
like,
it's what someone called us at the time, and in fact, it, there were lots of people. The person who called us that was the then wife of Keith Glass, and Keith Glass ran missing records, was it?
record labels? Yeah, the
Yeah,
record
the
label.
label. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was our first album. "Send Me a Lullaby" was on that, and our first singles, "Your Turn, My Turn."
yeah,
And
yeah.
his wife, didn't get us at all. Like we moved to Melbourne first, just for a short time, and the birthday party were the big thing there. That they were huge,
Okay,
and
yeah, yeah.
uh, so we were we I guess we were really awkward, and 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 we were. I don't think we were particularly. I think we were gauche. You know that word gauche, kind of clumsy and
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, and it actually means left-handed gauche. It's French,
Oh, right.
but it means
Okay.
kind of, yeah, it means kind of awkward, clumsy, uh, not fitting in. We were like that, and I remember the birthday party girlfriends getting me in a dressing room and telling me how to wear makeup, giving me a lesson on how to put on makeup.
Oh my God.
And
Well, the
they were
birthday. Yeah,
because they all had they were really white, faces. They did got really white makeup, and they
yeah.
were telling me how you had to have extreme coverage.
Got yeah.
Oh man.
Well, you also did so like I don't know if it's but it's a short-lived band with a birthday party as well, didn't
Oh,
you? Because
it was a band overnight, for God's sake. People
oh, is it
have
just but you released a
people
record
turn
though?
that into some kind of like magical story. It's just like
Yeah.
we were all hanging out in the studio. I think it was Richmond Recorders. We're all hanging out, and
Yeah.
we were doing the night session, and they were doing the day session, and we crossed over, and I think everybody was speeding off their heads, if I recall. Speed being the drug of choice at that time, and we recorded that song. It's
And
actually
released it.
dreadful. It's actually
And
dreadful.
well, well, when in the band, is it true that Grant McLennan was well, shall we say, I don't know what the correct word is, a bit indifferent or not really, so like didn't like you as much, so so like is that because of your relationship with Robert Foster at the time?
Oh, right. Oh, you're asking me about Grant. Wow.
No, sorry.
Gee, that's brave.
It's
No, I don't think he liked me very much. But and sure, definitely because I took Robert from him. I mean, I was Robert's first girlfriend, but
yeah,
uh, look, I think I mean, yeah, he didn't like me, so there's not much you can do about a situation like that. There's nothing.
yeah. Well, the one thing I'm gonna ask you really is because you recently received a Grant McLennan Lifetime Achievement Award as well. So I was sort of like thinking, what was that like, to have
Well,
that?
in fact, it's not the Grant McLennan Lifetime Achievement Award. Is that on Wikipedia?
Yeah, that's why
No,
it
no,
says on Wikipedia that it's like a Grant McLennan Lifetime
no.
Achievement.
It was just the Queensland Music Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh,
Someone's already taken that down. They were supposed to. Maybe someone's put it back up. Wikipedia is a festering sore with the information that goes in and the information that comes out. Honestly, okay, and I'm not allowed to touch my own Wikipedia. So if something goes in, like anyway, it was the Queensland Music Lifetime Achievement Award. It wasn't the Grant McLennan Lifetime Achievement
oh
Award.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there was no conflict. And besides,
Okay. Because
even if I had got the Grant McLennan Lifetime Achievement Award, I would have thought that was ironic. I would have thought that was even a better joke. So
no, because I think there's so many Wikipedians that they can just change whatever, so like put things in there and then or maybe remove things out. And sometimes I've noticed that they will put a link to someone who is entirely different from the person that I was searching for. So yeah, I mean it's good Wikipedia, but don't always believe in everything that they put on.
well, I've had a lot of trouble with Wikipedia because it was just such a mess, and I'm trying to get it together. I can't do it. As soon as I do that, one of those pesky 12-year-old volunteers comes in and stops me doing stuff, and then changes anything I do. But I've got someone helping me, but they're very very slow, and he's had success in getting some stuff up. But there's a lot more stuff I'd like to go up actually, because it's very useful that
Yeah,
people are aware of some of the things you've done. And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's why I actually so like I read Wikipedia so I can do so so like things that I could ask you about. But anyway, so with the go betweens, you became like a five Bs with Amanda Brown and Robert Vickers. And watching your videos again, especially right here, you all seem to have so like a great time. All your videos seem to be like fun and is it because so like they're like two lovers in the band plus Robert Vickers. So,
uh, I think we loved to perform. All of us, we were all performers, and
yeah,
I particularly loved making videos. Because it gave me a chance to do performance. Not that I ever had a major role. That right here video was my idea because I like the idea of doing all that stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And but we did have fun. We had lots of fun. I mean, that don't let the story of Grant and I disliking each other and there being a tension between us uh, th- override the fact that we were always having incredible fun. It was the most awful times were in the studio, really. But most bands will tell you stories from the 80s where it was very arduous working in studios
yeah,
because you were dealing with producers who were fairly rigid. But traveling around Europe and America and coming back to Australia and touring and it was just really great fun a lot of the time.
well, you can tell it from the videos that you made. I just really love watching those things. I want to say hello to Alan Ramirez. Alan's in Manila, and he's like, "Wow, the go-betweens." I mean, so thanks for joining us, Alan. So you made six albums when you were in the go-betweens, and I've always also just noticed this myself, and again, thanks to Wikipedia, that all the titles of the albums got double L's.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that deliberate though?
yeah. It was deliberate. Yeah. So the first two albums, it wasn't deliberate. Send Me a Lullaby and Before Hollywood, and then we noticed the trend, so we continued doing it. Yeah, it was good. It was a good thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, because
It, it,
even
it has
the
no
last,
it, it has no spiritual significance whatsoever. It means nothing. But with 16 Lovers Lane, we kind of changed the idea a bit because the two L's weren't together. But
yeah,
yeah.
well, I can tell because I work at King B Records. I work this out like part time every Saturday, and every time we get a the Go Betweens record, they're always very expensive and they go really quickly as
Oh,
well.
really? What's the name of the record store you work in?
King B Records in Manchester.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that they're really sort of like I know that most Filipino record collectors, they're sort of like well sought after records or what any the go betweens. But I've only actually got one, which is the single "Streets of Your Town," because that's the only one I could afford. But all the other ones that I've seen are sort of like, oh, I'll wait until I find a sort of like a cheaper copy of it. But yeah, so like I mentioned, the Filipinos love the go betweens, but I don't think Robert Forster was aware of it because when I saw him for the first time in Manchester when he did this book, Grant and I told him that I'm originally from the Philippines and that the Filipinos love the go-betweens, and he was genuinely shocked. He was like really surprised that he didn't know that that your music actually reached us. And I said to him, "Yeah, yeah, we do love you." So when I had asked him for a photograph, he actually said, "Hello, Manila." I was thinking that was a video or something. It was just a photo.
It's
But,
very funny.
yeah, but you are actually aware of it because after the Go Betweens, you're in a band called Cleopatra Wong,
Hmm.
and a friend of mine said that you went to the Philippines and did a promo.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure we did a show. Maybe we only did a promo, but we went from goodness me, we did Singapore, Hong Kong, Taipei,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Manila,
Manila, yeah, yeah.
and I and Seoul.
Oh,
So
right.
uh, yes, so, yeah, we were with Warner's in Asia. Unfortunately, I left a 9-month-old baby in Australia, and Amanda was 7 months pregnant at the time, so it was all too weird. In fact, that tour probably broke up Cleopatra Wong because we had the realization then that as two women with young babies, it was impossible to do it. You couldn't tour. You just couldn't tour. It,
Yeah, yeah.
it was too painful. It was just too painful. So anyway, I remember Manila really well. I remember it very, very clearly. Going to, you're right, we might have only done, I remember being taken to dinner and the food was just fantastic. Oh my God. But I also remember, I'm going to tell the story. I remember money being paid to the guy presenting the radio show that day.
See, I didn't know about this. He told me about it because it was in the early 90s and I already left the
Yeah, it was
Philippines
not.
at that time.
It was 92.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we had to drive a long, long way to get to the radio station. It was a long way from the city. I mean, yeah, I saw. Yeah, I really did like Manila, I have to say.
That's very
But
good.
you're right. We did such odd shows, and we did TV as well. But we did such odd shows because it was just her and I. So there'd just be a drum kit
Yeah.
and her playing acoustic guitar, acoustic electric guitar. It must have been so odd. Now I think about it, yeah. But it was a great little band, and
Yeah.
it was Amanda's starting band for her as a songwriter.
Well, I tried searching YouTube for any clips of sort of like Cleopatra Wong being in Manila, so but I couldn't find
No,
any. So I don't.
no, there's I think there's only two clips of ours up. One is the song "Thank You," and the other is another song that I just had to edit recently, or Amanda edited it actually. We had to edit it because it's the other single. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's I've got a YouTube channel, Lindy Morrison 8. There's not a lot up there because I only just started it. But um, the we had to edit it because my daughter is in it, my 10-month-old daughter, and she's nude. And
Oh,
these days you could not have a video
yeah.
of a nude child. And so we've edited it out, so it's only half in that video. You'll see that it's an edited video.
And it's you've got the YouTube channels. It's on your
Yeah, it's
YouTube.
called Lindy Morrison 8, and it's not got a lot up yet.
Yeah.
But I'm putting stuff up as I go. Anyway, I've been digitizing stuff from the past, and I found a live video, a video of Cleopatra Wong live, and I digitized it and showed it to Amanda, but Amanda doesn't like it and doesn't want it up. So
Oh,
I'm hoping with time that she might change
the
her mind.
chills. Yeah,
She
she'll
says
say
that she hates. Actually, the quality is terrible, but I don't give a shit about the quality when I'm putting this stuff up because it's all about history.
yes. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if you don't digitize stuff and put it up, when, when you die, my daughter's just going to clean everything out, and she's going to throw away the computer. You know, the videos are just going to go. I put up some interviews that luckily I had video of that I did in the early, 90s. There's some interviews there and stuff like that, and there's still probably some more that I can find at home. There's
yeah.
also I've also put up just audio, for instance, a zero gig, because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been fun actually.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's always good to sort of like have those on YouTube because at least people can search for it, and then especially the ones who missed out, they weren't there at the time, or sort of like too young to go to gigs and things like that. So at least we can see it, we can watch it on YouTube. So I think
yeah.
that's a good
So,
thing.
I really have to. Amanda's really. I saw she did an interview recently. She said in that interview that she can't stand a voice on the Cleopatra Wong records because she's just put out her own album
Yeah, yeah,
recently. Yeah,
yeah.
um,
I've heard about that. Yeah, yeah.
it's lovely. It's a lovely album, and yeah. So I don't know how I'm going to go on that. Maybe with time she might change her mind. But as I said
Hopefully, yeah.
again, the quality's not great.
Yeah. Well, Alan just said that, yeah, we love the go betweens very, very much. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
true.
nice. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, talking about the book, um, Tracy Thorn's book called My Rock and Roll Friend. I want to just say, give a shout out to a friend of mine, Jane Hand, who's married to Adam Halford, who's a drummer as well, and their daughter, Sydney, is also a drummer. So she knows she knows that I like this thing, so she mentioned it to me, and that's when I searched for you. I looked for you on Facebook, and I'm really glad that you said yes to us, John. But anyways, when I was reading, the first thing that I've noticed was she mentioned that interview you did, and you were talking about like being a feminist, and with Robert Forster and stuff, and it was coincidentally so like I actually watched it a few days earlier before I got the book, before I started reading the book. And do you still sort of like get interviewed for things like that? Because I know it was more sort of like the 70s, the 80s, but sort of like the feminist movement things. Because I remember that when I was young, so like, but do you still uh, talk about it a lot these days?
Are you asking me? Do I still talk about women in rock?
I think it was that particular interview about talk about sexism or feminism.
Sexism in the Australian music industry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and I was giving lots of examples. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I love that interview. I think that's one of the ones I put up. I love that interview. But I don't like to talk about women in music at all anymore. And in fact, um, you know, when I received that Queensland Lifetime of Music Award, someone said to me, you know, you've got to talk about how hard it was to be a woman in music and from the stage, you know, because I did a speech. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I just don't want to talk about it anymore. There are young women now. They're everywhere, and they can talk about it. I want to hear what they have to say. I, I've, I've, I've had my adventure, and now I'm
Yeah.
old, you know, and I don't want to be the spokesperson anymore for women in music. I just refuse to do it, and I also refuse to be the spokesperson for ageism in music. I don't want to do that either. I've been asked to do that. You know, it's just
Yeah.
being that woman that I had to be for so many years, where I always had to talk about sexism in the industry. Frankly, in the end, it just drove me crazy, and I got sick of being typecast as that person. So I won't talk about it.
But do you think a lot has changed
Oh,
from?
everything's changed. Everything's changed. For God's sake, in my day, you never saw anyone on, no women instrumentalists on the stage. There were no women on stage. You know, like today, if there isn't a woman in a band, you're
Yeah,
surprised.
but
A
has it gone better?
boy bands are now a genre of their own. That's a boy band. They're all boys. You know, like seriously.
But has it gone? Do you think it's gone better now that maybe the women in the music industry are sort of like being treated better now than in the past?
Well, yes, of course, because there are so many more of them, so that their culture is permeated. You know, their culture is permeating. I mean, the Me Too movement did a lot to change the fact that men couldn't be sexist. You know, there might have been extremes of the Me Too movement that weren't so hot, but you know, the Me Too movement had its qualities for sure. Oh, I think a
Yeah.
lot's changed. I don't
Yeah.
think men can get away with what they used to get away with anymore. Like, and also, you know, women have access to the stages. They just weren't. They weren't
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, because I remember when I interviewed my first ever female drummer, female drummer guest, Layla from Lines. She's absolutely amazing. I remember sort of like talking to my daughter about it because I said, "Do I have to mention female drummer?" Because I think for me, I mean, there's no difference really. It's all like you're all drummers. You're all amazing drummers. So I tried not to mention sort of like female and
Oh,
male
yeah,
drummers. But this,
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, there is sort of like a difference. It's a, I mean, of course, there will always be difference. And I remember um, the drummer of the Meekins, John Langford, he actually said that his heroes or the drummers that he likes the best are female drummers. So, so I was all like thinking now, maybe I should sort of like address that there is a difference,
But,
or
but do you think there is a difference?
that maybe so like you were like I think the first time I asked about if you get treated differently from male drummers was when I think when I had Sid on the show. So yeah, so maybe when you see a male drummer, then they say, yeah, that's fine. But when it's a female drummer, it's sort of like, oh, she's not as powerful as the others. But I just love female. I just love watching
But
female.
I think, I mean, I saw Fliss Kitson the other night,
Oh yeah,
from
yeah,
Nightingales. Talk about power. I mean,
yeah.
she's the most extraordinary drummer. Like, she's unbelievably powerful,
She
uh,
is. Yeah, yeah,
so strong. I couldn't get over her strength. And
yeah.
um, there's a drummer in Australia. I mean, there's lots of female drummers in Australia I like. But Brie Van Ryk, for instance, she's a very great, very strong drummer. Claire Moore from Dave Graney, you know, her Dave Graney and Claire Moore. You know, she's very, very strong. I do. I know what you mean though about. In particular, some may have a light touch. Now, I saw Holiday Ghost last night and saw Katja, the drummer Katja, and she may have a light touch, but she's got a light touch because every song is so bloody fast. So she's just using her fingers to do the speed. It was so fast, the material, but she's very neat and I would say, you know, quiet player. And
Yeah,
in a way, maybe what you know what you're thinking about when you're saying a quieter play. Yeah, they tend to be some of the also maybe they're more inexperienced when you first start seeing them. You know, maybe because they're young. You know, they. You're not going to find old female drummers on the stages now. I mean, there are some. There's like me, and there's Sheila E. and there's other and so it's not like you're seeing after years and years and years of playing how they've developed. You're seeing them when they're young, really. Not Fliss
yeah.
though. I mean, look at Fliss. She's just a powerhouse. She's so
Oh,
strong.
I love Fliss. I love Fliss because I'm actually because I think she's gonna be there on Tuesday as well. So I'm really looking
Oh
forward
well,
to
I hope so.
seeing her.
I don't know, but I like the way she uses her right hand. She never play well with the Nightingale. She never plays a backbeat. She's moving her right hand round the kit all the time and very, very fast because she's playing the eighth notes as she's moving her right hand round the kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting style.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know it's nearly so like 11 o'clock now, but can I just ask you about your other bands as well? So after Cleopatra one, on your Discogs, there's a Discogs entry as well. You got a band called The Rainy Season.
Yeah, I was in the rainy season with Amanda actually. Amanda was in that. That was for about I don't know 4 years or so. Clyde Bramley, who's been in lots of bands. Yeah, that was interesting. But I'm more interested in talking about the bands I'm in now. So and the bands of recent. So I played with a young woman called Alex the Astronaut for a couple of years, and but she's got a young band now again with a real powerhouse drummer from Queensland.
Yeah,
I think her name's Kayla. I've forgotten her name precisely. So but I worked with her. I was her first drummer. She'd been a solo artist. So you know, I played with her, and it was always she always was going to get a younger female band. And then now I've been playing with what's called the Snarsky Circus Lindy Band, and
yeah,
that's Rob Snarsky, who was in a group called the Black Eyed Susans, and he's put out a lot of work, solo work, and we just have made a mini album that's about to come out. But I've been playing with him for at least 18 months, and we tour a lot. We play tons, so we're
yeah.
playing all around Australia. And
Are you bringing it over to the UK someday, or
well, I'm hoping to.
hopefully?
Like, it's expensive.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand. There's going to be some kind of Triffid's um, Triffid's show next year around March, and he's part of that. And I could build something around that, I believe.
yeah,
Um, and so, and then I'm playing with a trans woman called Cassie Judy, and I'd call that kind of cabaret. Although she's not sure it's cabaret, but I'm pretty sure it's cabaret. It needs a lot of work because again, she's been working by herself and still works a lot by herself, so she doesn't work with a band much. So
yeah.
I do find that you're learning the arrangements from a record, but when you um, go to do it live, she might bring the stabs in after the second chorus when you've learned that they come in on the third chorus, and so you miss the stabs, which is really disappointing because you liked that bit and it was dynamic.
Do you still see, do you still see Amanda Brown a lot, or are you
I see
still?
her all the time. Yeah, we
Yeah,
Yeah, we talk a lot, and we're doing a gig together, a really high profile gig, in the Sydney City Recital Hall. Now it's June, early June. Oh no, it's June 30, and she's reproducing her album, which is 8 guitars, and she's got the 8 guitarists playing each of the songs, and I'm supporting her with Rob Snarsky because two of the people in our band, well, not because, but luckily, two of the people in Rob Snarsky's band play on her record. So
All
they're,
right.
they're being bought up by the venue. So
Yeah,
I don't have to look after those fees. And they're also being accommodated. So it's just fantastic. And
and
we're
you.
supporting.
Oh, I
The
see. Okay.
The
Yeah,
only
yeah,
thing I've got to work out now is, do I take my drums, because Amanda's got a drummer, and or use his, but the more, because it's a big deal, of course, taking the drums. But the more I think about it, the more I want to play my Ludwig drums on that stage, set them up and
yeah.
have them look fabulous. Um, but
Mm,
and I do love playing them, so I think I'll probably do that. But yeah,
yeah,
so yes, we talk. There's always a lot. We swim together. We both live in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and we swim together, and we both talk, a lot.
yeah, yeah,
There's always a lot to talk about. She composes for film. She's incredibly busy. She's never out of work. Like, so it's a TV series and film. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're also you've been busy. You never stop working, and you never stop sort of like playing the drums.
Well, I'm not going to stop playing the drums, no, but my body's not going to last. I'm not going to be able to, uh, you know, I, I, I'm not going to be able to keep it up.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe post 75, you see a lot of uh, people after 75. They really begin to deteriorate. I think I'm noticing that, and so I'm seeing that there's going to come an end to this, and that's why I'm doing as much as I can now.
yeah.
I just don't have much time left, and
Do you think there's a possibility of sort of like the Go Betweens reunion? Because
no.
Robert Forster is still playing. I mean, he's headlining Glasgow Spot in July. Is
I've
there?
asked, I've asked Robert. He won't do it. There's no way he's going to do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
it's a
no!
shame. Yeah,
Oh, it's a shame.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
well, right. I'm gonna ask just the last question. Though. So, like the last, when you play the drums, do you twirl? Do you do this sort of like
Do I
twirling thing?
do I
Do you know when?
throw? Do I
Well,
twirl? No,
yeah, do you twirl or and then throw
I,
sticks up
no.
and do
I,
tricks?
I, I do love to throw, but I'm too nervous about my eyes. I mean, I love to bounce the stick off a drum and catch it, but frankly, I'm too worried that I'll hurt my eyes. And uh, so I'm a very cautious person, and also I don't twirl, but I'm going to learn to twirl. In fact, that's what I'm going to do in the next while. I'm going to learn to twirl. Whenever I'm not doing anything, when I'm wasting time, I'm going to twirl. So
Have you
next
ever
time,
had
next
it?
time, next time you interview me, I'll bring a stick and I'll do a twirl.
And you would have
I do
you,
like
have
it. I
you
do like it when drummers do that.
Yeah, I do too. It's like when I go see them, and then they sort of like do the twirl, especially when there's sort of like a gap, and
Yeah,
then they do the twirling, and then they go boom, and
yeah,
it's just amazing.
yeah.
But
I
have
like
you
it.
ever had any accidents in your years of drumming?
In Spain one year, I fell over at a club after a gig and sprained my ankle, and that was absolutely fucking horrible. So I just and look, I'm terrible when I'm walking downstairs. I walk down really, really slowly wherever I am. and I'm very conscious of my ankles and falls and all that sort of stuff. And uh, as I said, I'm very, very cautious. Uh, I,
Yeah.
I, 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 I don't want to sprain my ankle again. You know, I don't. Yeah, yeah. Touch wood.
Yeah. And do you have any drumming heroes?
Oh yeah, I've got tons.
Love.
You know, like um, Hal Blaine. I love Hal
Oh,
Blaine. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just
Like,
Tony Williams, Han Benning. Uh, yeah, Robbie Go to Bed from Wire. Uh, oh, like really, I could just go on.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've also like from the 80s, 90s drummers.
Sorry,
Uh,
what?
80s drummer or not from the 80s or like music scene in the 90s, like maybe at the time when the go-betweens was all like really famous. Was there any
Oh yeah,
particular?
well, I loved Jet Black. He was
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
Jet
yeah, yeah,
really just a superb drummer. Um, mm, yeah, I just can't think of the top of my head right now, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm always, um, you know, I do love to look up solos in particular. Um, you know, Buddy Rich, for instance.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
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 the famous solo he did in West Side Story. And, you know, I like to see how those solos are broken. Actually, his solos aren't complicated. They're just singles and doubles, but it's the speed that he does them. They're just so fast. You know, they're really, really fast.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I like the Sandy Nelson. Yeah, I like to play all around the toms. I When I go into a practice room to practice, I rarely do backbeats. I just do stuff around the toms. I mean, unless I'm practicing, well, obviously when I'm practicing the Lloyd Bean stuff, I'm playing to
yeah,
an album, so I'm just reproducing what the drummer did on the album.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but if I'm going into practice rooms by myself to practice, I don't touch the cymbals really. I mean, my left foot's closing the hi hat, but I'm just moving round and round. Uh,
all right,
yeah, yeah. Well, I really like to do single and double combinations, and I like to work out solos around single and double combinations. And I don't like any of my solos that I've developed, not a single one. I'm not getting there. But then you can just take a little bit and use it as fills. And the fills I really like to do are combinations of singles and doubles. Not that you can do them all the time. I can do them in the Rob Snarsky band because the music's so slow, so you can do a kind of long single double, you know, like paradiddles, mixtures of different types
yeah,
of paradiddles. That's in fact what you're doing. You're doing forms
yeah,
of paradiddles around the kit. But sometimes
yeah,
I get confused and end up on the wrong hand. You know, you end up on the right hand because you know you've done, you know you haven't counted it right. You've only done half of the figure where you're supposed to come back with the left hand, but I've forgotten half the figure.
all right,
Forgotten,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and I'm back in the chorus or
yeah,
back in the verse, and I'm on the wrong hand, and I don't, you know, so yeah. But I like to do it. I like to experiment with that stuff, and I like to experiment with it live. But it's tricky to do that in case you make a mistake. And
yeah.
sometimes your timing can with slow songs, your timing can be out, and that's ugly.
Well, well, Aiden said that great conversation. Lindy is very inspiring. So yeah, you are very inspiring. But
Thank you.
can you just do you want to just invite our viewers and anyone who's in London or in the UK for next Tuesday's gig? I'm definitely gonna be there. So do you want to just
Okay, yeah. So I think
yeah,
it's going to be a really fantastic gig. It's uh, Rob Lloyd from the Nightingales and Janet Bean from Freakwater and Mark Bedford from Mandis is on bass and
yeah,
and Peter from the Membranes is Peter Bishmore is playing guitar, and there's another guy called Spencer who's playing guitar.
Spence Roberts, yeah, he's
Yeah,
gonna be there as well.
yeah. So it's going to be a really great gig, and it's
Yeah.
at the Bush Hall. And I
Which,
hope to see you there. And I look forward to meeting you, Anne. I really do.
yeah, I really look forward to
Well,
like and
I'll,
hopefully,
I'll see you before the show. I'll probably watch the support act. Um,
yeah,
so
and
I'll
hopefully
probably,
I can have a photograph with you before
oh yeah, well, we'll
as
do
well.
that. And
Well,
and and furthermore, do you keep a record of this, don't you?
yes, yeah, I
Well,
always sort of like upload it so like a
well,
few hours after, and then
I'd be able to I'd be able to put this up on my YouTube channel,
oh
couldn't
yes, yeah, yeah.
I?
I
Okay,
can send
that's
you the
great.
file as well if you want. But also before, because there's also this question that I forgot to ask you. How did that come about?
What?
The the that this gig that on
Oh,
Tuesday
oh,
with from the Nightingales and
well,
so,
you know do you know the stand-up comedian called Stuart Lee?
Stuart Lee, yeah, because he
Yeah,
did
right.
the
He made
documentary
King Rock
about
Up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's a friend of mine, so he knew I
Oh,
was in town, and he
oh, I
suggested.
see.
And so Rob went to him about a drummer, and he said, "Oh, Lindy's going to be in town."
Oh, right.
And yeah, and so that's how I got the gig. We
I
could
see.
take we could take Stuart Lee stand up.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, okay. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you finally. I can't believe it. It's like a legend, Australian legend, the go-betweens, and so
Thanks.
yeah, so because I have to sort of like make sure hope the set finishes around 10 or just shortly after because I need to get back to Manchester on that one. So if I could get a photograph before the show or before you go on stage, so that'll be that'll be great.
Okay. Oh, it'll be before I go on stage.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
like because sometimes yeah,
Okay.
so yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna miss my bus back to
Oh,
Manchester.
no,
So
that's
it's like, because
horrible.
sometimes it goes longer things.
Yeah, no, no. I feel for you. I don't know what time we're on stage. What time are we on stage? Do you
I
know?
think it should be sort of like 9, isn't it?
All right. So you'll only see probably half the gig.
Yeah, because David Callahan is going to be
Yeah, he's supporting.
supporting.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
All
I'll
right.
be in London from the afternoon anyway, so like make sure get to the venue early and hopefully meet you
Well,
there.
maybe you should just come to the sound check.
Oh, well, that would be great. Yeah.
I'll let you know what time we're sound checking.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's a much
so
better
much.
idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I gotta go now. I'll
All
talk to
right.
you.
Thank you so much, Lindy.
Bye,
And yeah, see you
honey.
on Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh my God. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. That's such an amazing like interview. I really love the way that she so like said yes to me. I couldn't believe I still couldn't believe it. And I was just still nervous. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyways, thank you all so much for joining us today. Next week I'm gonna be in London on Sunday, but the show Lindy Morrison's gig is not until Tuesday. But I'm gonna be in London on Sunday as well because I'm gonna be seeing John Moss. John Moss and his new band Ridiculous. So yeah, I'm hoping to get John Moss on Ask the Drummer as well someday soon. Yeah, so I'll be back on the 7th of May, and it's going to be another awesome guest for that Sunday. But as always, so like as always, love music, love life, love drummers. Thank you once again. I hope to see you on the 7th of May. Thanks everyone. Bye for now. Bye.